If classic rock has a signature sound, Steve Miller might very well be the guy who wrote and played it.
This here's a story about Billy Joe and Bobby Sue. Two young lovers with nothing better to do. Keep on rocking me, baby.
There are few musicians that bridge generations quite like Steve Miller. His songs are instantly recognizable, his nickname unforgettable. But this mild-mannered space cowboy can also stand his ground when he needs to.
Like, you, all of you people.
And in this video, we're going to find out just how Steve Miller got the nickname, the Space Cowboy. Miller's childhood was a classroom of music legends. His godfather was Les Paul, the guitar pioneer. And sometimes his parents' friend T-Bone Walker would turn up in the living room, guitar blazing.
Les Paul and Mary Ford came to Milwaukee. He was from Waukesha, the wizard from Waukesha, I think was his nickname. Right. So he and Mary came to Milwaukee to work at a nightclub that was just down the street from where we lived. Wow. When I was 9, I have recordings of T-Bone Walker playing at our house in 1951 and 52.
Amazing.
And so I was there in the room, and he showed me how to play the guitar behind my head and do the splits and stuff like that. So all of that was going on. So I started going with my dad to the nightclub to see Les Paul. And Les and Mary would come over to the house. They eventually got married at our house. And it was so cool because Les always had jam sessions. Yeah. Always. Every time he played, he would invite somebody up on the stage. So I thought, that's what it was all about, like you had all this fun, you were really funny, you played guitar, Mary sang great songs in 3-part harmony, he was speeding the tape up and down. I figured all of this out in 1949.
With lessons like that, it was only natural that music became his life. By the time his family moved to Dallas, the blues had already taken root in him. At the University of Wisconsin, Miller formed the Ardells. It was here that he first worked closely with Boz Scaggs, who would later enjoy his own chart success.
And then I went, played all through high school, and then I went to the University of Wisconsin for college. And I got there, it was 1961, they didn't have any rock and roll bands in Wisconsin, so I had the first rock and roll band on the campus, and people still talk about that band, and Boz Scaggs was in that band, right. And Boz was in the high school band too, so these were really good musicians. It was really good stuff.
In 1966, San Francisco became the center of American rock. The Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Janis Joplin, all reshaping sound and style. Miller arrived with a band of his own, but unlike the others, he carried the Chicago blues with him.
Time to leave Chicago, everything's happening in San Francisco. You can go play at the Fillmore Auditorium and make $500 a night instead of $125 a week.
That choice set him apart, grounding him while others chased psychedelia. In 1967, Miller's band shared the stage with the man who had defined rock guitar, Chuck Berry. The Fillmore Auditorium recordings captured not just Berry in full flight, but Miller's ability to hold the rhythm together. For Miller, it was a lesson in rock and roll from one of its original architects. Only 2 years later, another icon crossed Miller's path. Paul McCartney, weary from internal strife in the Beatles, walked into a London studio. What followed was an unlikely partnership. McCartney explained in the Beatles anthology, "There was a big argument and they all went, leaving me at the studio. Steve Miller happened to be around. 'Hi, how you doing? Is the studio free?' I said, 'Well, it looks like it is now, mate.' He said, 'Mind if I use it?' So I ended up drumming on a track of his that night. It was called My Dark Hour. A good track, actually. He and I made it alone. I had to do something, thrash something to get it out of my system. The session didn't top the charts, but it showed how seamlessly Miller could connect with the biggest names in music. By 1973, Miller had crafted something different. A song with humor, charm, and a little mystery.
Some people call me the Space Cowboy. Some call me the gangster love.
the Joker was unlike anything else on the radio, and it gave him not just a hit, but an identity. The Space Cowboy had arrived.
I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun.
The Joker, stuff like that, where they're all over the world. I mean, I've been in Fiji and people go, "Ha ha, Space Cowboy." And I go, "How did you know that?" Right. Like, everybody knows that. That's great. Man, that's beyond any thought I ever had. It's like the Space Cowboy's the guy who stops the bully.
Well, from where did that come? I mean, did you come out of Buckaroo Banzai or something?
No, I just kind of wanted to be an astronaut, as soon as I could. I went to the Kennedy Space Center and looked at what they were doing, and so I always wanted to do the music for NASA because of the electronic music, and so I don't know. I just made it up one day.
And I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. I get my loving on the run, yeah.
Now, when I started making records, I was a little overwhelmed by the technical end of it, and I had producers, and I fought with those producers all the time. The first record I produced myself, when I finally said, "Okay, I'll be responsible for it," went platinum and was the Joker.
17 years later, a Levi's advert resurrected the Joker. Overnight, it climbed the UK charts, reaching #1 again in 1990. Few artists get a second chance at the top. Miller managed it with the same song.
I play my music in the sun.
The mid-70s brought Miller's most prolific run. With Fly Like an Eagle and Book of Dreams, he produced a string of hits that filled arenas and dominated the airwaves.
Keep on rocking me, baby. Keep on rocking me, baby. Oh, it goes in and right now. 'Cause it's here that I got to say. See the story about Billy Joe and Bobby Sue. Two young lovers with nothing better to do.
These records and his live performances became timeless staples of American rock.
Like an eagle, till I'm free. I wanna fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me.
I felt like I knew what radio needed and what the public wanted, and it sort of all came together with what I liked to do.
In 1978, Miller collected the highlights of that period into one record. Greatest Hits, 1974 to 78. It went on to sell more than 15 million copies in the United States alone. That album didn't just summarize his career, it became a cornerstone of classic rock collections everywhere. By the 1980s, Miller had already conquered radio, but the arrival of MTV meant video mattered as much as sound. In 1982, Abracadabra gave him one more #1 single.
Abracadabra, I wanna reach out and grab you.
It kept Miller's name in rotation for a new generation discovering music through television.
Abracadabra, abracadabra.
In later years, Miller returned to the music that first inspired him. Albums like Bingo and Let Your Hair Down paid homage to the R&B and blues songs of his youth. It was a return to the beginning, proof that his career had come full circle.
Found another kid and we put a band together, sent out letters to everybody and said, "We got a rock and roll band and you can hire it." And I had the band booked for a whole school year at $125 a night. I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I told my parents, like, "No, you don't understand. I got a job on Friday at the, the SAE house at SMU or something." And it was all fraternities, and they never asked how old we were. And we started playing blues. When I was 14 years old, I backed up Jimmy Reed in Texas.
In 2016, Miller was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He accepted the award, then turned it into a platform for critique. The rant was classic Miller, outspoken, uncompromising, and unwilling to let the industry off the hook.
There's nothing fancy going on out there.
that requires all of this stuff. They need to get their legal work straight. They need to respect the artists they say they're honoring, which they don't. I don't have any of my paperwork is signed. I have no licensing agreements with these people. They're trying to steal footage. They're trying to make me indemnify them. When they told me I was inducted, they said, you can have 2 tickets, one for your wife and one for yourself. Want another one? It's $10,000. Sorry, that's the way it goes. He said, I'm playing here. What about my band? What about their wives? What about... They make this so unpleasant.
The nominating committee of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is so f***ed up, and they're just so and they're so off course. I think the only reason that I was asked to be in it now is because they had to do a TV show, and that's all the Hall of Fame was. There is no Hall of Fame. There was no party. They didn't introduce any of the inductees or the inductors. We never saw each other. There never was a little thing where they said, hey, this is the Hall of Fame, and we're raising money, and we're doing these music education programs and all that stuff. It was like, shut the up. If you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to cut you from the show. And we go, really? Cut us from the show.
It's okay.
And then they'd say, all right, we're not going to cut you from the show, and you can have 5 tickets for the band. You, we want tickets for the band, the wives and stuff. It just went on, and it was 3 months of insults and bullshit. And the actual event was a sound check that lasted 12 minutes, this kind of shitty cocktail party on the mezzanine of the arena, then was sent out to a table where I sat down at a table and didn't know anybody, and the people that were in the front of us never even turned around to say hi. We just sat there. We went and played a couple of numbers, then off for this press thing, and the first thing they go was like, hey, how do you feel that they didn't put you in for 23 years? You know, and you kind of go like, f*** you, f*** all of you people. And I felt really angry at the lack of interest by the people that actually run this thing and who put it together. They didn't show up.
It doesn't get any better, does it? Are you shocked?
Yeah, it's going to get better. I'm going to get these guys. They're going to be sorry that they treated all these people this way, and it's going to go on, and it's going to get better, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's actually going to go to Cleveland.
Right.
And the museum's actually going to mean something, and the funding they raise is actually going to be used for music education before I'm done.
What are you planning?
Oh, I can't tell you.
What? Are you planning something?
I'm planning to keep it in the news, and I'm planning to investigate them. I've already got all their public documents, and I want to see where they're spending the money. I want to see who's being paid. I want to check it all out.
Even in his 80s, Miller remained decisive. In 2025, he cancelled an entire US tour, citing the increasing risks of unpredictable weather.
In an Instagram post, Miller shared that, I'm quoting now, the combination of extreme heat, unpredictable flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, and massive forest fires make these risks for you, our audience, the band, the crew, unacceptable. You can blame it on the weather. The tour is canceled.
Steve Miller's music has lasted because it was never tied to a single moment. It could live on the airwaves of the 1970s, return through an advert in the 1990s, and still find new life in concert halls decades later. From the living room lessons of Les Paul to the stages of the world, Miller became not just a guitarist or a songwriter, but a cultural fixture, and that, in the end, is the legacy of the Space Cowboy. In this video, we mentioned that one of Steve Miller's early collaborations was with Paul McCartney. Recently, the ex-Beatle chose 5 musicians to make up his dream supergroup. To see who he picked and why, click the thumbnail on screen.